Filthy Animals is an ecology podcast for adults. Episodes may contain strong language and graphic descriptions of natural phenomena. A more detailed list of content warnings is included in the episode description. Welcome to Filthy Animals, a sex, drugs, and ecology podcast where science educators talk about adult activities of the natural world. Every month, we'll expose you to the latest research on topics your high school science teacher was too embarrassed to talk about. My name is Rachel.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Allan. And we will let the games begin.
Games.
Yes, because...
The sex games?
Yes, Nicole. Okay. That's what we're talking about today. The very unusual behavior of Lekking. Yes, today's topic is a little bit romance, a little bit warfare. It is Lekking. This is a diverse and very kind of this is a diverse and complex topic. So there's a lot we could talk about here, and we've already talked about a few lek mating systems in passing on this podcast before, but we haven't really gone into detail about what a lek is or how lek systems work. So what I'm going to have this episode be is just sort of a primer on lek mating. And then we're going to delve a little more deeply into a question that bothered me about all this while I was researching this topic. And I'm not the only one who had this question.
Well, good. Yeah. Okay. That means there might be answers.
Well, we'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. So we've been using the word lek a lot, like 14 times already. Perhaps we should define it. Lek, that's spelled L-E-K, is the Swedish word for what? Do you know?
Dance floor.
I was going to say dance.
Good guess. No, it's the Swedish word for game or sport.
Oh.
Yes. We have a store right here in our hometown called Fartlex, which is...
We do?
We do.
Sorry, what?
It means...
Fart?
It means speed sport. It's a running store. Fartlex. Shout out to Fartlex.
I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this in my life.
No, it's true. You can Google it. Okay. The Swedish word for game or sport, it refers to a mating system in which males of a species gather and they fiercely compete to defend a patch of territory from one another for the opportunity to mate with female spectators. Lek systems have evolved convergently in a lot of different animals. Okay. From birds to ungulate mammals to bees even. We talked a little bit about that last season.
Ungulates have leks?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
It's rare, but they do. When we say we've talked about convergent evolution before on this podcast. I don't know if we have, but basically,
I'm sure it's come up.
Okay,
definitely on the best biome, if nothing else. But yeah.
Well, in case you're not familiar with that term, convergent evolution is just when we're talking about characteristics with more or less identical or similar functions that evolve independently, right? So, like, bees have wings, birds have wings. They have no common ancestor. Okay. All right. The social sort of like what a lek looks like differs quite a bit, obviously, between all these different animals. Sometimes it can involve vocalizing, aggressive dancing, ludicrous displays, physical combat, and more. All these animals get down in very, very different ways.
How do you define ludicrous displays?
It meets the eye test of well, and that's we're going to talk about that, like, because that is something that a lek mating system tends to produce because it is at an extreme, right? This is, of all the different sort of mating systems that exist, it is relatively rare, and it produces some very intense sexual dimorphism, generally speaking.
Sure.
So you get males that end up at a wild extreme because of the selection pressure that a lek creates. So it's just ludicrous. I don't know how to tell you better than that.
Fair.
Leks probably are most well studied and most closely associated with birds. Mm-hmm. Even though that's not really the default, it's like definitely not the default breeding system in birds. Birds tend to be seasonally monogamous with maybe some promiscuity. There's a lot of different mating systems in birds, though.
Yeah.
You know, got your polygyny, your polyandry, polygynandry, all sorts of different ones. And we'll talk about lots of them probably on this podcast. But lek mating is definitely best studied among them. And honestly, this behavior of lek mating has a lot of significance to the history of the study of evolution, and a lot of interest in breeding biology in general. The concept of sexual selection itself, like as proposed by Darwin, Charles, that Darwin.
Yeah.
Yes. Was actually developed through his observation of lekking birds.
Okay.
So this is like where that very sort of foundational idea in biology, sexual selection, started with looking at what the hell are these birds doing? Why are they doing the absolute silliest shit imaginable to get laid?
Yeah. What's
the deal? Okay. So we're going to talk about some of the various leks out there, but let's talk about what they tend to have in common. What we've determined that using birds as a model are 4 traits that a typical lek mating system has. Number 1, several males gather and display at an arena.
Okay. Check.
Number 2, males provide no significant resources to spectating females. They give nothing. Okay, there's females get nothing out of it.
They get eye candy.
Except sperm. Okay.
I was going to say, it does seem like they're giving everything
they're
to
giving
the dance floor.
They're giving their all, yes.
Leaving it all on the
Yes.
field.
Yeah.
But materially, females getting very little out of it. All right. Female choice is what drives the matings. Okay. Females choose among the local males. They're not herded or mated by force by any one male. Okay. So this is a ladies watching,
yes,
picking. Okay. And lastly, males take no part in parental care.
Right, of course.
Their involvement ends at copulation. They danced for you. They fought for love. They gave you their sperm. They're out. Good luck. Don't call.
I mean, isn't that a lot of mating systems? Let's be honest.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, it is. But like not necessarily even in birds. Like there's a lot of biparental care in birds. You know, I mean there are male birds who will like develop brood patches for incubating, you know, nests. Like then they stick around for like the entire process of the rearing. You know, lek mating birds obviously have no brood patches.
Yeah.
They're one and done, and they're gone. So those are 4 traits that all leks are going to have in common. And like we said, since this is one sex choosing the other, this is an extreme example of intersexual selection, in which the females are choosing the males. This would contrast with the opposite of it, intersexual selection, which is why I think Rachel was like, mammals have leks, because intersexual selection is usually the way that mammals, like their breeding systems dominate, right?
Yeah.
You get males together, they defend resources, they get very territorial, they fight other males, and they just decide like, okay, I'm at the top of the hierarchy. Yes. So like, and as we mentioned before, that selection pressure, females looking for really weird sexual characteristics in these displays, these dances, these fights, whatever, leads to intense dimorphism. So let's talk about some examples of Lex. Well, we're gonna touch on some of our own up close and personal experiences with Lex in a minute. Because we've spent a lot of time at Lex, it would so happen. But let's think of some other interesting examples. Do you guys have a favorite example of a Lek, by the way? Do you have one that is near and dear to you?
Hill-topping bees.
Hill-topping bees is a good one.
Thank you.
Yes, there's sweet smelling love cloud.
Yes.
Yes.
Smells like roses, if you missed that episode.
That's a good episode, yeah.
Thank you.
It's really kind of like wholesome. Yeah. Yeah. Lex are not always wholesome.
Nah.
Rachel, do you have one?
I like the classic prairie chicken.
Yeah.
You said near and dear, and I mean I've had a lot of experience. I mean, even in my undergrad, I spent a lot of time on prairie chicken legs.
Oh, nice.
So I think they're neat, and it's really special to be like out on the prairie in the sunrise or before the sun's even risen, and you can just hear booming chickens having a fist fight somewhere over the horizon. It's like I've got no idea where you guys are, but you get it.
Yeah. Had you ever so you would always like you'd visited Lex before, but had you ever until we did the Lek event last year, had you ever been like that up close to them before? Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because you've like tagged birds and put little sweaters on them and stuff.
Well, yeah.
Nice.
More like backpacks and collars, but yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no. The greater prairie chickens, greater and lesser prairie chickens are like a prime example of a Lek species. All or most, I guess, grouse kind of chicken species have that. That's like their go-to mating system for the most part.
Yeah, and now that you're pointing it out, I'm not really sure why that is, but it is something they all have in common. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like sage grouse, they're the ones that have like the two big boobs. They go blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do go blah blah blah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sharp-tailed grouse. There's so many of them.
There are. Yeah. Like one of the species that was perhaps like that was like used as kind of like a model for like a lot of these subsequent studies of Lex was black grouse, which I don't know if those are from North America or not.
I don't know.
I think that might be a European species. But yeah, so bees, chickens. We all spent some time last April out in Western Kansas watching Lex with people as part of our state Audubon Society's Lek Trek event. We were tour guides for that, which meant waking up at 3 a.m, driving out to the middle of a cow pasture, crawling under barbed wire, following little stacks of cow poop to a very specific location, and then waiting for a bird dance fight to break out.
I didn't have to crawl under barbed wire.
I also didn't.
Okay, well, I guess I got stuck with the. I had to walk so far to get to where mine was.
Yeah.
Yours was by far the most annoying to get to. Like, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. And so we would go and we'd sit out there in a tent starting at like 5 a.m. after we drove, out into the middle of nowhere for a couple hours. And then you start to hear like the drumming and the little like the little chest sacs like inflating. Really, really goofy. And it would last for a very long time. Like the competitive aspect of this was seemingly nonstop.
Yeah. And the same individuals too. Like it wasn't like some moving in and out. It was like the same ones dancing for 5 hours.
Yes.
Just insane.
Yeah, you're begging for the end.
It was really wild.
Yeah.
I have no idea what processes are happening that we aren't like perceiving there in terms of what information's being exchanged among all these chickens as they're drumming. And the females also are just kind of like chilling back in the grass, taking it all in.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're reading into it either. It's very strange. A very strange experience, but also it's nice.
Yeah.
It's like a really good, like, oh, this is some nature that is difficult to see normally, because it is happening. These territories where greater and lesser prairie chickens do this are very remote. They have to be because they avoid like all structures, all roads, all disturbances. They have like very specific requirements for where they want these leks to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to really go out there to like find them, and it's a cool experience.
It is a very silly fact about birds that for some reason, even the ones that are really, sensitive, like you were saying, you can just pop up a tent like 15 feet from them and they're just like, how strange. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Once they're in the zone, they seem to care less.
They're just not bothered at all. Like there was a man snoring in one of the tents and they were just like, I gotta beat this guy up. The dance can't stop.
It's like if a phone rings, they don't care. If anything, they probably take that as a challenge.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
Like, what the?
But it's also really hard to tell, like, which thing is the thing that will set them off. Like, a badly timed zipper could make them all go, hold on a second. I think there might be something in those weird tents that popped up this morning.
Yeah.
These strange mounds just looming over us.
And that's not just, chickens. Like, all birds do that. I've been in blinds to stare at terns and stuff, and they're just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, which is... They're like extremely defensive if you bother them. So yeah, that seems like a bit of an evolutionary blind spot, doesn't it? That you would just be so easily deceived by something you can't have a direct eye line on.
Well, it's a good thing we're not there to hurt them.
Yeah.
That's true.
Although... Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, but like they did instruct us to make sure that like we only had one window open at a time, because if they could see through the tent and like see our outlines, then like that would spook them. But as long as it was a blob, they didn't care.
Yeah. What's that blob? Probably harmless.
Yeah. And we also got the instruction that the only real danger that we were aware of is that coyotes might use the blinds to sneak up on the chickens.
Yeah,
that's true. Because it may come as no surprise, gathering in a large group and making a shitload of noise does actually attract some predators.
No.
Doing it for hours on end in a wide open space.
In the same spot day after day.
Yeah,
But at least they're hyped up on testosterone.
That's right. They are pretty like jacked out of their mind. No, go ahead.
Like Elon Musk.
Okay. Because he's on ketamine or whatever.
And testosterone.
Oh,
he's bragged about it on Twitter.
Nice.
Elon Musk has gender affirming care.
Yeah.
Oh, like those okay, like I got you. Yep. Amazing. Okay.
Editor, I'll let you decide whether to leave that in.
It's not all just like cheerful dancing though either with prairie chickens.
I wouldn't call it cheerful at all.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. It delights us.
Yeah.
To them, it is absolutely high stakes combat.
Yeah. 100%.
But it is. It's not all. And it does actually like. There can be actual violent confrontation among these chickens. Like they'll tear at each other. They'll try to go for the sacks.
Yeah. Best case scenario, they puncture those things.
Yeah.
And then your rival can't even inflate their sack. Oh my God.
Humiliating.
Yeah.
So yeah,
floppy sack.
There's honestly, it's sometimes this male conflict can really complicate the entire breeding process more than it needs to. There's been some studies about like violence between greater sage grouse and how that actually tends to like kind of push females away. We would just see that happen sometimes where like, males there'd be like a female who's trying to work their way into the center of the territory where the dominant male in the hierarchy holds the ground, and it would just start a fight. And like the chickens would just be more interested in fighting with each other, and the female would just be like, all right, well, guess I'll just go back. See you guys later. Like wander off. So yeah, it's a weird situation. It's a very odd series of social encounters that these birds are having. Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool experience. If you ever get the chance to go see any Lekking species in action, you should. Some of the others from the animal kingdom, just some other examples out there. Rachel, you looking for a mammal example, black bucks, which is an antelope species native to the grasslands of India.
Okay.
They're a good example of a lekking species. They also don't always leck. It's conditional for them. So it kind of depends on some environmental and spatial factors if they decide to form a leck or not. But they do.
I hope they dance. I'm so ready for the image I have in my mind is something incredible.
How fun would that be? No, they don't actually dance. They do have head-to-head competition.
Literal?
Yes.
Okay.
They have gigantic spiral horns, a very lovely creature, which of course results in pretty serious injuries sometimes. And yeah, that's definitely not the norm for mammals to gather in a female choice situation because, like we said, they tend to be more territorial. They tend to favor that intrasexual selection as their method. So that is really kind of a rarity and kind of a neat one.
One of the other things that strikes me as odd about this system, in the sense that like it almost feels like you're setting yourself up for sabotage and failure, is the fact that other males can literally like cock block you. Does that also happen with bucks? Like we witnessed chickens body slamming other chickens off of the female who was like ready to go.
Yeah.
Are bucks like nailing each other to stop copulation? Like, are they just like tackling each other constantly to stop any sort of like in chickens, it's like a little kiss that can last a second. I haven't looked into deer sex.
I think it takes
I feel like it's more
longer.
involved. Yeah. Like that seems dangerous. How do you even successfully mate under those conditions?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And these are the sorts of questions that evolutionary biologists also have about what is the point of this. So I don't specifically know about like how much like, like, yes, they'll have like paired competition, but how often does it tilt into being more of a free for all like we'd see with chickens? That I'm not sure about. I'd have to go watch some like actual videos of these bucks going at each other.
So it's like a bracket tournament?
No, I don't know. I don't think it's that organized. I think it's like, oh, that's the guy. I'm gonna take the guy down, and then they run in, and maybe they become the guy, or maybe they don't.
I see.
And meanwhile, the females are like, I thought that guy was the guy, but this guy,
he's the guy.
Yeah.
How on earth does the guy manage to impregnate anybody when all these other guys are like, I want to be the guy?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rachel.
Thank you.
And we'll get to it. We'll talk about it a little bit later.
Thank you.
Okay. In the insect world, let's just talk about a couple other lecks first. In the insect world, we've got fruit flies are another great example of a lekking species. In the very tiny little territories, fruit flies in family Tephrididae, you might see a group of up to 6 males gather within 30 centimeters of each other on separate leaves of a tree.
That's so cute.
They then start sending out sexual signals, so visual, olfactory, and acoustic, and begin vigorously fanning their wings to waft those juicy pheromones over a greater distance of up to 1 meter.
I need this to show up in like a Ferngully spinoff or something, like one of those little. Oh, that's so cute.
Yes. Yep. They also might drop a little rectal gland extract on the leaf to really get things cooking. So, yeah. Also very cute. That's how they do it. Let's see. Even fish have been observed to have some lekking behaviors. Cichlid. I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I always feel like there should be an H at the start, and there never is. Yeah. It always feels like feel like I say chiclet when I read it. Okay.
That's a gum.
That's chiclets.
Chiclets. Delicious. Cichlid fish. One example of this in genus Oreochromis. They will dig spawning pits in their little breeding areas and then defend them fiercely. Males will have some potential male-male combat when they overlap. And interestingly about this, the females selecting their mates not based on any physical characteristic of the actual fish. They're only looking at the size of the spawning pit that they can make and defend. So they're like, ooh, the size doesn't matter. It's the territory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the size does matter, just a different size.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. That is correct. Yes. Bowerbirds are also considered a lekking species. We'll probably talk about bowerbirds at some point in another context, maybe. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. They build fancy little sort of bowers, but like they're like a shrine of shiny and beautiful things, bent grasses, just sort of making nice, and advertising to a potential mate, like, look what I can do, look what I've brought to this world. Unfortunately, those bowerbird leks do actually result in some high competition as well. Male bowerbirds will try and interfere and steal from other bowers. They will try and demolish other bowers if they can. And I found one study that talked about how male bowerbirds actually need to rely on having other closely related family bowerbirds nearby to help look out for these males that are trying to come and mess their stuff up. So it's like they like females would have a higher selection rate for males that had like more closely related birds around them. So they kind of got like
little backup posse.
Yeah, like a little bit of a social support there to avoid just jerks coming and kicking stuff down. And Nicole, earlier you had wanted to talk about an example of this in amphibians. Did you want to say anything about that? There are some good examples. There's a lot of lekking kind of amphibians. I know you had sent me a video of one, and so I didn't know if you wanted to mention anything about that.
Why didn't I get a video of one?
I don't know. I don't remember why.
I think this might have been in like the TikTok apocalypse era. So you maybe were already gone.
I see. Okay.
And then,
My bad.
It's possible. Yeah. I guess I don't apparently know what a lek is, but if it's mainly like, a male defending an area and like duking it out with other males in that area, then yes, gladiator frogs, I would say, have leks. They build gladiator rings and just kind of posture inside of them for a while. Another male will come up and they duke it out one-on-one, and whoever wins gets the lady. So...
And it's like a physical slapping duking.
Yes. Yeah. They like wrap around each other and are like pushing each other and like, it's
little froggy wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is the thing that makes all of these a lek the fact that all the males do it in the same area? Like with the fish, are they all building their arenas in the same area and they're just having individual dukes with their neighbors?
Yeah, generally speaking, yes. It is a territory defense thing. So yeah, that is one of the key characteristics we mentioned.
Okay.
Gathering and in defending a specific space.
Sure.
Because I'm just thinking like I'm trying to differentiate it between just standard territorial defense. Like red-winged blackbirds have territories and neighbors, but they're not considered lekking.
Right.
Even though they are displaying and fighting each other all the time.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I think the key difference with a lek is that there are no resources at play here. So when when males of other species might defend territories, they're defending all of the food, the shelter, whatever.
And the females who nest there.
And the females who nest there.
Yeah.
So they're offering, like they're defending that space that has a lot to offer. A lek generally is a smaller scale territory where there is nothing to be gained. Except the opportunity to mate.
And you said that, but thank you for reiterating it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that made it make sense.
Yes.
Right, yes, yeah. Yes, so I was going to say something. Oh, and like frog leks, like we mentioned, are like, they're not uncommon. I think like physically violent frog leks seem like they're less common.
Probably.
Because a lot of frog leks that I had read about were mostly based on vocalizations. So a lot of frogs getting together in a specific territory, vocalizing to defend a very small area, and then females kind of wandering in and out of these vocalizing dudes, and then being like, ooh, hang on. I like what you just said there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's physically violent frogs is definitely a twist. Very cool, though. So Lekking takes many forms across many different kinds of animals. And reading about all these different kinds of lek mating systems left me, and it sounds like Rachel already, with some pressing questions. Because I could not shake the fact that all of this is ridiculous. Okay? This is... consider this.
Yeah.
Okay. Sex in nature, one would imagine, should be simple and streamlined, right? The world is a very dangerous place. These animals have a biological imperative to try and reproduce. So perpetuating your genes should be quick and easy and efficient, right?
Not if that's the one thing that matters.
Yes. I would imagine that organisms would benefit more, again, because resources are scarce, every choice of their life matters, inefficiency is costly, that they would benefit more if they did things not like this. Because I will tell you, I couldn't help but notice when we were at the Greater Prairie Chicken Leks for 5 hours a day, 4 days straight. Do you know what I never once actually saw?
Chicken sex?
Chicken sex. I didn't see any of these chickens actually successfully copulate with a female. In this... okay.
On my site, we saw one female for about 10 minutes. And then she flew away. And a male did follow her, so I don't know what happened in the grass. But yeah. So they were doing it for literally nothing at my site.
They just wanted some privacy from the dozens of camera shutters going off. Right? Understandable.
There was one potential copulation on my site, but it was very hard to tell if it was successful because, like I mentioned, there was a lot of chickens body slamming other chickens, like a football just coming in out of nowhere and just knocking him off. You know?
Same thing happened at my site. There was a female had like worked her way in the middle. The male had like finally like mounted her, and then bam, out of nowhere, this dude just like elbows him off. And then, like she actually seemed to get irritated with these other males and was sort of like starting to run around in the middle of the lek too.
She was fighting the males.
Yeah, she was like just really aggravated, it seemed like, by this, by these males harassing the situation. So how is a system like this sustainable then? We've talked about how it's obviously a very complex form of breeding biology. It's very sensitive. It's very delicate. Like these territories, if they don't meet the right like characteristics, they're no good. Why is this system sustainable at all? Okay. And not to mention the fact that sexual features themselves come with a lot of costs. Okay. Whether it is bright blue feet or a big red ass, these things take an investment of time and energy to create. Okay. So why do it like this? Why turn something that should be simple into something so stressful? Why make love into a battlefield, if it were? I'm not the only person who had these questions.
I was going to say something about how the world is always just
A battlefield.
well, I was going to say rocketing toward entropy, and anything that could happen should happen because there is no sense to anything. It's all just random chaos.
Dang.
Oh,
Ordered by whoever was successful.
dang.
History
All right.
books written by this winner.
The winner! Yeah, the evolutionary history book is written by the winners.
Well, that was really
Not
loud.
necessarily. And I'll get to that in a second.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right. So I'm not the only person who had this question. In fact, Charles Darwin, yes, that Charles Darwin,
Wait, which one?
the Charles Darwin
Oh, okay.
of
I prefer Charlie.
Charlie Darwin, Charlie D,
Thank you.
of the HMS Beagle fame.
Oh, my God.
He himself wrote, "The sight of a feather in a peacock's tail, whenever I gaze at it, makes me sick."
I love this guy.
Because why would something so ornamental and so ostentatious exist in the first place? It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Objectively, we can
Yeah.
all agree.
Life is
you,
beautiful.
me, Nicole, and Charles Darwin all agree on this.
Wait. I think it's ludicrous in that it's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I like that silliness exists in nature.
Yeah. Boy, that's a real shift in tone from what you said a minute ago. Okay. So some hypotheses for why Leks happen. So first of all, we agree that it's costly not only to create these sexual characteristics, it's costly to compete and incur more violence than you need to just walking around as an animal in nature. Okay. Some possibilities for why some of the original hypotheses for how Leks started to evolve in the first place have a lot to do with female movement, because there are large female home ranges in a lot of these species. Males are going to try and shoot for places where those home ranges overlap, because it's like, well, there might be more than one lady around. Okay. And of course, other males have the same idea. So you end up with males behaviorally converging in these places where female ranges overlap anyway. Suddenly we now have lots of males gathering in a space trying to look for females. Okay. This may have been something that started to facilitate these Lekking behaviors. Additionally, there's what's called the hotspot hypothesis. Males clustering territories to maximize where they get the most female movement might increase their chances of encountering females, but at the same time also sort of create more competition between the males who are clustering there, sort of acting as one paper referred to it as like a black hole. So it's just sort of drawing everything in, like females key in on these are where the males are keying in, this is where the females might show up. And it sort of becomes this feedback loop of everybody gathering together in one highly competitive space in which resources cease to matter.
And light cannot escape.
No light can escape.
I love that.
So that's sort of mechanically why Leks might start forming, but also like why bother, would females bother with a mating system in which they get absolutely nothing out of it? Okay, the individual female, right, receives no parental care, receives no resources, receives no defense, no help, no guarding, nothing from these males. Yes.
What if she was never going to get those things anyway?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I mean, she has no choice because all the dudes are being ridiculous over here. She's like, okay, I guess I'll go see what they're doing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah, like why? Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. Like why do this? The hypothetical here is that the indirect benefits of this must be huge. The genetic benefits have to outweigh the material benefits of selecting a mate that's actually going to like be around to help rear young, right?
Well, except that they're all mating with the same dude, so they're making a bunch of inbred populations.
Hold on.
Okay.
We're going to get to that last.
Oh, God.
Because
Okay.
you're identifying another issue with this. Okay.
That's a separate issue.
Okay. So some hypotheses on what, like, on why Lek matings persist and why female choice persists, because there are possibly some huge genetic benefits. There's something called the handicap hypothesis, which suggests that evolving ridiculous secondary social characteristics like a massive ruff of feathers that makes it more difficult for you to see predators and potentially puts you in danger. If you have something that actually handicaps you, okay, as a sexual characteristic, and you survive anyway, you must be really good. Like you must be like, if you have something absolutely stupid on your body that serves no purpose, okay, and causes you more problems than it's worth, and yet you're still surviving and thriving, females can see that and be like, that might be good genes. Okay? That's one hypothesis. There's the genic capture hypothesis. This suggests that strong sexual characteristics might actually involve a lot of the genome. Okay, so there might be, this isn't just, instead of just being like one single trait, okay, having a healthy, like extreme, sexual characteristic could indicate that there are a lot of just generally healthy traits about an individual, and that might be what drives that choice. Okay. Again, we don't know because females are getting very limited information about these males other than how well they can dance. Okay.
Have they tested this though? Have they tested and found that those things are true in high performing males versus low performing males in Lex?
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies on this, and there's evidence to support these various hypotheses. Again, it's difficult to say evolutionarily what's happening in each case because there is so much diversity among the kinds of Lex that there are. But they have tested these. Another one, for example, they've tested is the parasite hypothesis, in which suggests, okay, in order to maintain any sexual characteristic in good condition, you'd have to be devoid of parasites. So having these characteristics at all suggests your genes might confer some natural advantage in resisting parasites. And they have done studies where they've captured males and looked and checked their parasite load and that sort of thing. But frustratingly, a lot of these questions are still kind of unresolved, which is not something we like to hear, but that's the fact of science sometimes. And another big unresolved question with all this, which you were getting at, Rachel, you were circling it. Okay. This is a question that has bothered evolutionary biologists for a very long time, and it's called the Leck paradox. Okay. The Leck paradox is basically this. Females receive nothing from the males but their sperm. Okay. But they still keep exerting a selection pressure on the whole situation. Males adapt stupid characteristics that put them at a greater risk of predation. Okay. As a result of all that strong female preference, though, and there's there tends to be in Lex a lot of unanimity about who or which males are the best, right? The ones that is going to be mated with. Okay, you would expect to see a fall off in genetic diversity because, like you said, they're all picking this top male in the hierarchy. The guy is doing most of the mating. That's going to lead to a reduction in genetic diversity because the offspring are all going to have these same traits as the male. That could also lead to a reduction in fitness of the offspring because genetic diversity, usually good for a population. That's how evolution works. Okay. Right. You want a diversity there. And so eventually, if Lekking continues, what's the point of making the choice? Because you've all, the effectiveness of the choice goes away as all these animals start to have the exact same traits that you keep selecting for over and over again.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes.
I have two hypotheses.
Okay, go for it.
My first one is, what if the female genetics are actually driving the sexual characteristics? My second hypothesis is that the real black hole is female materialism.
Explain what you mean by that.
I mean that the genetic pool is a black hole of inbreeding, which cannot be escaped because of how strong their preference is for the flounce or the muscle.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. These are good hypotheses.
Thank you.
And I think you're touching on something that's very important there, which is that this is considered paradoxical because that's what we'd expect to happen is, okay, you mate until you have the most extreme characteristics possible. All males have the same characteristics. Nothing matters anymore. Why choose? Okay.
So nihilistic.
That's not what happens. That's the paradox. Okay. The hypothetical never comes to be. There's something else going on. Okay. We see that leks do not deplete genetic diversity, even though females continue to have really strong preferences for specific kinds of males. And so what are some reasons why that might happen? Okay. A lot of it could come down to female activity, parentage. That might have a greater impact on fitness overall.
Nurture.
Okay.
Over nature.
Right. It might come down to a lot of specific environmental and spatial factors. Okay, like a larger lek. If larger leks start forming, then the males that are lower in the hierarchy might get more opportunities to mate. Okay, once a lek gets big enough, the guy can't have it all. You know, he's under some constraints himself. So the other males might get in there and you know, it's like the guy right below the guy and then the guy beneath him, right? They might also have an opportunity to breed. There could be some other mechanisms contributing to genetic variance here, such as sneaker males. All right. These are males that might imitate female behavior to just disrupt the lek and possibly steal copulations. Another example of this would be a buff-breasted sandpiper, which is not a really extremely dimorphic species, but they do have a lekking behavior, and it's been observed of male buff-breasted sandpipers mimicking females to try and get in between the male and the dominant male and a female to try and steal the copulation. Wild. And of course, finally, there could also be the mistake.
Oh.
All right. There's a really good quote from Westworld where the guy, Anthony Hopkins' character says, "Evolution forged the entirety of sentient life on this planet using only one tool, the mistake." Okay. We don't know that females are always, because we assume in this system, we assume with the hypotheticals that females are always picking unanimously the best male, right? They're always getting it right. They're not, though. You know, there are always going to be situations where perhaps, you know, a less than ideal or less, you know, a less than fit, whatever, you know, male gets the opportunity to breed. It just happens, right? These things happen. You know, humans make regrettable sexual choices all the time. I don't know why we'd expect any less of animals.
Fair.
Okay.
True.
So these are all potential hypotheses. It is worth it to say that there's been hundreds of papers about the lek paradox. Lots of people have proposed different things. It's still considered that it remains unresolved after all that. It's just a weird evolutionary quirk of why does this happen and what are the factors in play. And I think because it is like, because lek mating systems are so broad, so diverse, so strange compared with the way most animals choose to do things. Yeah, it's hard to suss all that out. Yeah. So it's an interesting, just an interesting quirk of evolutionary biology. And it's a lot of fun to watch for us.
Yeah.
So good on you, animals, for getting together and doing your thing. Like I said, go find a lek near you and find a way to watch it because it's neat.
Hell yeah.
Go check your trees for fruit flies. They might be getting down right now.
You didn't even mention like females could just go to multiple leks and like collect lots of different sperm too. Like,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there's
so many ways to hopefully keep some diversity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I have to think that the reason there isn't an answer too is just that there's multiple factors. I'm sure a lot of the hypotheses are correct to some degree in that none of them are solely responsible for anything going on. And also that each system being so different from the others means that there's multiple answers of multiple factors driving these systems.
Yes.
So
there's a high degree of complexity, high degree of nuance, makes it very hard to like tack down what exactly is the causal factor versus all these other confounding things. So
absolutely.
That's kind of fun though.
Yeah, that's kind of what's fun about science. It's what a lot of people hate about science.
For sure.
But that's definitely what's kind of fun about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Allan. And thank you, listener, for listening to Filthy Animals. This podcast is produced by the nonprofit GrasslandGroupies to spread scientific literacy in the interest of preserving our favorite natural resources. Send us mail at 4925 South Broadway, number 69, Wichita, Kansas, 67216. Our other social media and contact information is in the notes. And I guess we need some brain bleach. Typically at the end of these episodes, even though nothing here was really too terrible. I do like ending on a wholesome note anyway, so do you have any specific wholesome brain bleach notes for us to conclude?
I have no brain bleach. My brain bleach for you is to go out and look at some lovely things.
Oh.
And next time you see a beautiful creature, you have to wonder, why does it look so silly? The answer is sex.